I left my daughter just $183 in my will, $1 for every time she promised to visit and didn't. The attorney cleared his throat, a rasping sound like stones grinding in the sleek, oak-lined office, and read the final, binding clause of the will. To my daughter, Emily, and her husband, James, who showed me the stark contrast between duty and devotion, I bequeathed the sum of $183. $1 for each of the 183 times they vowed to bring my grandchildren to see me and failed to follow through. The quiet that followed was heavier than a shout. My daughter Emily stared at the attorney, her elegant face, once so dear to me, twisting into a mask of shock. Beside her, James let out a choked, incredulous sound, his polished hand rising to his jaw. They had arrived anticipating millions. They expected the estate, the investments, the rewards of my late husband's toil and my own prudent management. They came for their inheritance, a prize they'd long viewed as a delayed windfall they were already impatient to claim. Instead, they received an invoice, a precise tally of their indifference. I had crafted this moment for over a year, imagining it from the stillness of my rocking chair. But the path to this polished wood office, filled with stunned entitlement, began with a sound. It was the sound of my sprawling home, the suffocating hush of rooms adorned with fine furnishings but devoid of warmth. That silence grew louder with every excuse Emily and James offered. My grandchildren, Lily and Ethan, were the twin lights of my world, yet I was only permitted to glimpse them through the faint, flickering screen of a video call, arranged on their parents' schedule and always abruptly ended. "The kids are just so busy, Mom," Emily would say, her voice thin over the line. "Dance classes, chess club, you know how it goes." I did know. I knew because I had their schedules emailed to me and tacked to a bulletin board in my kitchen like a strategist plotting a battle, searching for a single free moment to claim. The moments existed, but the desire did not. I offered to make the 3-hour drive to them, my vision still sharp, my car immaculate. "No, Mom, don't bother," James would reply. "The roads are a mess, and the kids are exhausted after school." I offered to send a chauffeur to bring them for a weekend, promising to fill it with ice cream sundaes, visits to the zoo, anything their hearts desired. "That's sweet," Emily would say, her tone laced with patronizing dismissal. "But their schedule is so crucial. Disrupting it, even for a couple of days, just throws everything off." The gifts began to pile up in the guest room. A high-tech robotics kit for Ethan's 9th birthday, a handcrafted music box for Lily's 7th. They sat wrapped in bright paper, collecting dust, relics of a grandmother's unfulfilled affection. I became a shadow in my own family, a name they referenced, a task they checked off with a bi-weekly 3-minute call. The betrayal wasn't a single blow but a gradual venom, a slow death by countless careless rejections. My world shifted on a Wednesday. Wednesdays were when Rosa came. Rosa was my housekeeper, a gentle, hardworking woman from Guatemala with a quiet compassion in her gaze. She had 2 children, Mateo and Isabella, and with her husband juggling 2 jobs, she sometimes brought them along after school. At first they were timid, 2 small sparrows perched at the kitchen counter, sketching quietly while their mother cleaned. I started setting out lemonade and cookies, then pulled out my late husband's old painting supplies. Mateo, who was 9, had a remarkable gift for sketching. Isabella, at 6, had a spark that could brighten any space. They began sharing their creations, their eyes glowing with pride. One afternoon, Isabella found me in the den, staring at the fireplace at the framed school portraits of Lily and Ethan. I hadn't noticed my tears until she tugged my hand. "Why are you sad, Mrs. Clara?" she asked, her dark eyes wide with sincere worry. I knelt down and the truth spilled out, a raw, aching admission. "I miss my grandchildren so much," I whispered. Isabella didn't respond with words. She just threw her small arms around my neck in a tight, awkward embrace. From that day, she began calling me Grandma Clara. Mateo, following his sister's example, soon did the same. Rosa tried to stop them, her cheeks red with embarrassment, but I halted her. "Please," I said, my voice heavy with feeling. "It's the sweetest sound this house has heard in years." They became the pulse of my week. On Wednesdays, my quiet home filled with the music of their laughter. They'd burst in from school, tossing their bags by the door and rush to find me, shouting, "Grandma Clara, we're here." Mateo would unveil his latest sketch of a spaceship or a lion, and I'd frame it and hang it in the hall. Isabella would recount her day, stories of the boy who stole her pencil or the girl who shared her juice. Her tales a whirlwind of childhood joy that I soaked up like a weary traveler finding a spring. I helped them with homework at the grand dining table, unused for family dinners in years. I learned Mateo dreamed of being an engineer and Isabella wanted to be a doctor. They asked for nothing but my presence. Their love wasn't calculated. It was honest, simple, and freely offered. The final rift with my own family came on a stormy Saturday. I had called Emily, my tone carefully light, to say I'd secured 4 tickets to a new children's theater show I knew Lily and Ethan were eager to see. "I know you're swamped," I said, "but I thought this could be a fun treat." There was a pause, then James's voice muffled in the background. "Just say no," he snapped, irritation sharp. "I'm not wasting my one free day with your clingy mother. Doesn't she have a life?" Emily returned to the phone. "Sorry, Mom, we've got plans, maybe next time." The call ended with a click that echoed like a gate slamming shut in my soul. "Doesn't she have a life?" The cruelty of it took my breath. I sat in the silence and something inside me hardened, turning cold and resolute. It was a moment of piercing clarity. I wasn't their mother, I was a chore. A box to check on their endless list of priorities. My love was a burden. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in my study and made a list. I combed through years of planners, journals, and messages. Every will have to reschedule. Every something came up. Every broken vow. I stopped at 183. The next morning I called my attorney, a man who'd managed our family's affairs for decades. I told him I wanted to rewrite my will. When I explained my plan, he peered at me over his glasses, concern in his eyes. "Clara," he said softly, "this is unusual. They'll likely challenge it." "Let them," I replied, my voice steady. "That's why we'll make it impenetrable. I want a full mental health evaluation dated today. I want to record a statement explaining my reasons in my own words. I want every page of my journal, documenting the 183 broken promises, notarized. I'm not confused. I'm not being swayed. I'm being deliberate." I spent the next hour outlining the new terms. The house, the bonds, the antiques, the entire estate, valued at just over $8 million, was to be placed in a trust. The beneficiaries were Mateo and Isabella, the children of my housekeeper, Rosa. The funds were to support their education, their health, their dreams, to give them every chance I'd have given my own kin. I directed that Rosa receive a substantial allowance, so she could stop cleaning houses and focus on raising her children. I wasn't just disinheriting my daughter. I was forging a new legacy, built on a different kind of love. The thrill that coursed through me wasn't anger or malice. It was the joy of reclaiming my power, redirecting my love and wealth to where it would be cherished and grow. Back in the attorney's office, the weight of my choice crashed over my daughter. "This is madness," Emily shouted, leaping to her feet, her face flushed with fury. "She was a lonely old woman. That housekeeper manipulated her. This is coercion. We'll fight this, we'll ruin them." The attorney, calm as ever, didn't flinch. He pressed a button on his desk. "As I said, Emily, your mother was meticulous." A screen lowered from the ceiling, and my face appeared, composed and clear, seated in my favorite chair, the den warm behind me. "Emily," my video self said, looking straight into the camera, as if meeting her gaze. "If you're seeing this, I'm gone, and you've learned that my love wasn't limitless. It, like any treasure, required care. You and James failed to offer it. You may believe Rosa and her children took advantage of me, but their only crime was kindness. They called me grandma. They shared their lives. They filled my silent home with joy. They acted like family. Disinheriting you isn't a punishment for them. It's the result of their love, just as your disinheritance is the result of your neglect." I listed a dozen of the broken promises, my voice unwavering. When the video ended, the room was silent again. Emily sank into her chair, her anger spent, replaced by a hollow emptiness. James was crying now, but his tears weren't for me. They were for the wealth and comfort that had slipped through his fingers. The attorney slid a thick folder across the desk. "This is your mother's journal, her signed affidavit, and the psychiatrist's report, confirming her sharp mental clarity. Contesting this will be fruitless and, frankly, humiliating." My final act wasn't vengeance. It was truth. I'd spent a lifetime amassing wealth for a family that saw me as a safe to crack open after my death. So I gave that wealth to 2 children who saw me as a person to love while I lived. The joy was knowing that, at that moment, my attorney was making another call to a modest apartment across town. He was telling a hardworking mother that her children's futures were secure, their dreams funded, that the woman they called Grandma Clara had given them one last, extraordinary gift. I had left everything to the housekeeper's children, who called me Grandma every week. In doing so, I hadn't just secured their future. I had found my peace, ensuring my legacy was one of creation, not destruction, built on a love that was true.